Hi, Dan Klatt here. I'm the founder of OperationGreatness.com and the author of the book Reignited America. We're doing an interesting show today, and I'm kind of interested to see how this moves forward, plays out, which direction we're taking with this conversation here. Ultimately, we're talking about your primary responsibility, which is how you are here to use your power, which is absolutely beyond measure, and you're here to focus that power, concentrating it into living your divine design, duty, destiny, dharma, and we're relating this in a very specific way to your knowing that you alone determine your health, your well-being, your longevity, and yet we're relating that knowing to the fact that you also determine the course of your life. You create your reality. So that's what I want to convey to you here. And let's just talk about the context here. So this was maybe 5.5 years ago. My dad was taking me back to the airport after I went home to visit he and my mom for, I don't know, let's say 2 weeks. I don't remember how long I was there. And I used to go back twice a year, once for 2 weeks and once for 3 weeks. So I don't know if I was there, whatever, two or 3 weeks probably. And my dad was taking me back to the airport, and I just mentioned to him, because I wanted to help him. Let's just say my dad was a college math professor for, I don't know, 40 some years, maybe 50, I don't remember what it was, 40 some years, I guess. 47, 48, I don't know. And he had, this is what I mentioned to him on the drive back. I think I counted and realized that he had 6 or 7 different types of cancer. And I said to him, you realize that that's entirely within your power to control. And he just kind of, he was driving, so he didn't really look at me, I suppose, but I kind of got the feeling like he was kind of like, huh? But he said to me, I don't feel like I have any power or control over that. And I was like, whoa, that's really interesting. My dad was very intelligent. He's no longer with us now. He was very intelligent, like, just to put that in perspective, he discovered a pattern, he called them carousel numbers, by which the square of prime numbers repeats in a way that you can track and predict. And he gave, I don't remember if it was the keynote speech, or he gave a presentation or talk at the annual math conference. I think it was in Boston that year. And he presented this material. So he had something like, he saw things differently that, like Einstein saw things differently, but Einstein was a mystic. My dad appreciated that. For him, he called himself agnostic, meaning he doesn't know whether there's a God, because he thought math was the only provable thing that we can absolutely know. And he felt like nature was his cathedral. And so he was spiritual. But anyway, so for him to think that he doesn't have control over his health, his vitality, his longevity, his well-being, I was kind of like, really? You don't know what's so obvious? And I thought everybody knew that. And yet he was totally ignorant of that. So I want you to, let's pause here and think about yourself. Do you know that you determine your happiness, your well-being, your peace of mind, your success, your, did I say well-being already? You determine all areas of your life, all aspects you are enjoying, creating, living, by where you are choosing to give your attention, because that's becoming how you are creating your life. That's what I call the operating system of the universe. I call it the first covenant. Where you give your attention, you are giving your power, and that's how you are creating your life. That's an absolute. That's just how everything works all the time without exception. So I want you to put that in the back of your mind. And yet, let's look at this a little deeper with that insight that I shared with my father, that he determines what's happening to him in the arena of health specifically, and him being oblivious to that. So, like when we had what I call fraud 1.0, this time of where we had, well, they told us to, we didn't have to, we complied, at least too many people did, which is one is too many, with the attempted totalitarian takeover. And yet even that, let's put a pause on that, because that's a non-supportive focus for any one of us to have. Or is it? Let's even think about that. Because knowing that where you're giving your attention, you are feeding your power, is something that you don't want appropriate at all for you to feed it any of your power. You see how this is important for every one of us to consider all of these things. And absolutely check this out with your own inner knowing. Use critical thinking if you still connect with your ability to think critically. So, my father, well, okay, let's back up a minute. Because, anyway, back in that time, I heard someone I considered to be intelligent and honest and exposing what I call fraud 1.0, talking about like a medical person. It might have been Robert Malone, Dr. Robert Malone, who I think he might have even created the mRNA. I'm not for sure about that. I'm not positive of that, but that's my understanding. He was at that level of involvement, and he was at that level of scientific and medical expertise as a creative inventor. Anyway, but I'm not sure if it was him, but someone said that like the coronavirus is all around us, or the spike protein is all around us, and it's just in people who complied with the shot. They fell for that manipulation because they were irresponsible. Those are my words, not what I heard from this medical person at the time. But anyway, that the spike protein, like when you go out in your yard, that it's all over the place, and it's just in an immune system that was compromised that determines whether the spike protein attaches to something, and the jab, the bioweapon that people willingly gave to themselves or their children, that created, I saw diagrams like that, it's kind of like that created almost like a claw, and then the spike protein would latch onto that claw. So that's why people who gave themselves that bioweapon, I mean, to me, it's like they acted totally irresponsibly with their lives and with their children's lives. So it's like environmental things that determine, and like cancer and, all these things are like everywhere, but it's you, it's your physiology, it's your internal environment, which is determined by your mind, which determines whether the common illnesses, the germs, I mean, I don't know, some people say germ theory is false, and it's really, some people say that like fungus is the cause of all illnesses, And like we eat so much sugar, at least non-healthy people or people who aren't aware of these things, who mostly live unconsciously, that the sugar is feeding the fungus, and that's the cause of cancer and all of these things. Some people believe that, like Doug, I'm trying to remember his name, knowthecause.com is the website that documents all this, and Doug is his first name, but I don't remember his last name right now. Anyway, that's what he's putting out there. He was very ill, and no one could help him. No doctors could help him, as I understand it. And he educated himself, and he did his own homework. He did the research, and he looked at this and saw this, and he removed all of that stuff from his system. And I think he or someone else maybe related, or I don't know, someone with complementary information, I think my impression is that it's like the waste products of the fungus living in people that is what is causing the illnesses or diseases. And anyway, I mean, the point is, like it's how you are holding yourself. It's your consciousness, your field, your auric field, where you're giving your power, how you're carrying yourself, how you're showing up in the world, that determines whether this potential is actualized as an illness or disease. And I mean, to me, that's so basic and, like beyond obvious. And yet, I mean, like, oh yeah, even, well, I don't know when that was, let's say about 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 days ago, I heard a doctor, and this was like a psychiatrist, as I believe. I mean, if I'm hearing that his name is Dr. Samuel Lee, he said that, I think he said only 1% of diseases are hereditary and 99% are environmental. Like what you choose to eat, what you choose to feed your mind, like if you believe you're helpless and weak and just a product of the environment, or if you're feeding yourself toxic waste by watching CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, what's called now legacy media, the lies, the propagandists, the ones that are there to disempower people, or if you're reading the New York Times or Washington Post, or the propagandist companies, the properties of the CIA that are there to control people, manipulate them, well, then that's feeding your mind something that doesn't serve you and never has, and makes you feel like you are helpless and weak, like my dad felt that he didn't have any power to do anything about the cancers. They were just because of circumstances, or even looking at his life, like he used to work in the garden almost, well, I don't know, a couple of days a week, or at least probably for maybe 30, 40 years, maybe 50. And he would be out there getting, exposure to sun. So he had like skin cancer. And yet he also was a big kayaker, canoeer. And so he was outside a lot on the water. And anyway, so he had, skin cancer. So, I mean, that's environmental, but my point is, it's up to us, and it's our consciousness when you know that you are responsible for your life more than any other duty that you have, is using your power consciously and creating everything that is your heart's desire to have, because your heart's desire is the seed desire that I believe was given to you by God or the universe or life force. And I mean, the infinite unlimited, of which you are that expression in the world. I mean, there's something deep for you to see, to recognize, and to acknowledge, and then to live that, because you're God's gift to the world, and your life purpose is to express that gift, to give the gift you are, all of that is so, so huge for you to recognize and see and master and give that so freely everywhere you can. Okay, so that's big part of the context that I want us to play with here, see here, live by through this conversation here. And yet today's what, Tuesday? Last Thursday I met with my marketing strategist, and he was telling me that this week, like in 3 or 4 days, I guess this Friday, he's getting a colonoscopy. And before you say TMI, too much information, he's not able to meet with me on this Thursday because he's doing the prep for that. And this, to me, this is what connected the dots for me, was seeing him doing this, I'll say to himself, this treatment, or this test procedure, very highly invasive test procedure, of course. And so, like, a context here is my sister. She probably wouldn't be happy with me sharing this, so don't tell her, please. She had colon cancer when she was, I think, 32 years old. And I think it was, I'll say, entirely the result of her holding in her feelings, her worries, fears, stresses, and not having a way to release them. And I would guess she would acknowledge that herself. Like, I don't know, we haven't talked directly about that, but I would guess, just by knowing her, that she would acknowledge that, and she would say, yeah, I used to hold it in, and when something was eating at me, I didn't have any outlet to release that pressure. I just let it stay inside me. And that, to me, it's like when you have any emotional upset, that's radioactive nuclear waste. And if you're keeping that inside you, then, well, it has to come out somewhere. And how does that come out? In your physical health. And that's why we call it dis-ease. When you are at the opposite of ease with something, when you don't have peace within you, then that's carrying a lot of emotional, volatile energy, and that has to manifest. I mean, if you think of your 4 bodies, the physical body is the most dense, and then your emotional body, and then your mental body, your intellect, and then your spiritual body. Well, if you're carrying all this stuff in your emotional body, it has to have its effects in the physical body. Because if you look at it this way, I mean, that's very insightful, and that would be worth exploring further. It's your spiritual body which influences or creates your mental body, which influences or creates your emotional body, which influences or creates your physical body. So that's why when you get your spirituality right, when you are centered and at peace and just at pure oneness or in love, then you have positive thoughts. You are only loving toward people. You're not filled with anger, right? And that means you feel great emotionally and spiritually and mentally. And your physical body, how could your health and wellness reflect anything other than strength, peace, joy, happiness? So you're flexible, you're fluid, you're flowing with life, you're rolling, like the cat always lands on its feet, right? I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, that's just a metaphor of how to describe that. It's like you always bounce back, you're always up, you're always limber, relaxed. I mean, like a yoga practitioner is a great example of the fluid, flowing body. And then it also works the other way around. Like when you're limber and relaxed and at peace in your body, then your mind or your emotions, except is that true? Because I know it works the other ways, from spiritual down to the intellectual, down to the emotional, down to the physical. Everything is cause and effect, and you are prime cause. So where you're giving your attention, how you're carrying yourself in the world determines how the world responds to you. There's a key insight for you to go deep within. So please do that. And yet the physical, it does relate, like when you're like, well, okay, well, let's look at the opposite of that, because that's easy for everyone to understand. If somebody got it wrong and neglected all of these things, like their happiness, their emotional feelings, and where they're giving their attention, like if they fed their mind crap, like from watching CNN and the toxic news networks, I call it the communist news network, CNN, but if they're feeding their mind an unhealthy diet, then that will show up in their feelings, and that will influence or be a detriment to their physical health. But like if you think about somebody who didn't walk or didn't exercise or didn't stretch or do yoga or take care of their physical body, then that will be kind of like what's that saying, like it stands out like a sore thumb, or like what do they say, like the greasy wheel gets the most attention. I forgot what that cliche is, but like when your physical body is hurting, it's hard to think positively. It's hard to give your attention to something that will serve you and transform you, much less for you to remain centered and at peace, right? If your physical body is standing out and screaming for your attention, if it's out of balance, out of alignment, not working well, if you have illness or disease, then how can you, that's like the bottom root, that's like your vehicle. And if your vehicle is malnourished or unmaintained, then how can you have how can you be happy and at peace and be enlightened? You see how much all of this is integrated, of course, and yet, all of it matters, and yet I'm inviting you to explore that connection between your spiritual health determining your mental health, determining your emotional well-being, and determining from there your physical health. And it's where you're giving your attention and where you're at in your maturing of each of these four bodies that determines your outcome. So when I heard about my marketing strategist giving himself the colonoscopy, or going to that process, and I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. I wasn't judging him for that. I was actually, just this morning, I think this is why I had to do this conversation now, I was reflecting on this, like, okay, I can't have my call with him next Thursday because he's going to be busy, shall we say, running back and forth to the toilet, to be more blunt about it. And he can't be like on the phone or on the Skype call with me for an hour during this time where he probably will need to be present with his needs to prepare for this operation. The colonoscopy is a very invasive surgery, and there are those who say that it causes damage and you should never get that. And some people say that, the anesthesia that knocks people out, for them to, have this treatment or this process done to them is itself damaging to them. And these are questions that I think are important for every one of us to consider. And I just reflected on this myself, because I think the conventional wisdom, the propaganda, let's call it, put out there by the, corrupted medical industry, the pharmaceutical controlled medical industry, the betrayer of humanity. Well, I think they say that you should get a colonoscopy every 5 years once you hit the age of 50. And if you accept that, I'm not making any conclusions about what's right for you. I'm not giving you medical advice, obviously, either. I'm inviting you to think critically and to look at your life very thoroughly and your responsibility to yourself, and to honor that responsibility very diligently. And so, like me, okay, so I think to myself, I know that everything that happens to me is for my betterment. It's there to teach me. It's there to show me, kind of like the notifications on the dumbing device, of something that is important for me to see. That's what, that's what dis-ease or physical discomfort or pain is. That's just the notification system of the body of things being out of alignment or not in harmony. To me, that's so obvious. And so, like, if you have a symptom, then see what that symptom is revealing to you, and don't remove the symptom by taking something that removes the symptom, because then that notification system is not heard or received or seen or felt or acknowledged, and then that notification has to become louder to get your attention. It's there to serve you. Pain in your body, discomfort is there to serve you. So if you remove that pain by taking something from the pharmaceutical cartels that are only there to get you to become a lifelong customer of theirs, they're not there. It's not the health care system, it's the illness increasing system. They want to make you, they want to get you taking these pills to get rid of the symptoms, and then you have side effects to those pills, so you take another pill to get rid of those symptoms or to manage that effect, because everything is cause and effect, and what you consume, well, you're a prime cause. And all of these things are so critical for us to think about. So my point is, like, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, this gentleman that I know who's getting this procedure done, I think it was 5 years ago, probably, I'm guessing, when he did it the first time, and this is the second time he's having it done. And I don't know. It was bad for him the first time he did the preparation part of that, and then now he's going to do it again, and I don't know if he's going to do it the same way. But the question is, it's like, I kind of looked at myself and I thought, oh, that's interesting, and I can just check within me and see that everything is great. I can feel that, I can tune in to that, it's like, where you're giving your attention, you're giving your power. So it's like, if you have a sensitivity, you can just know these things. And I just know that I am like all 75 trillion cells within my system are connected, and they're kind of like a chorus. They're all in tune, in sync, and they're singing this beautiful, like the key of G. And it's very healthy and vibrant, and vitality is very strong. And, I'm just radiating and glowing and glorious, and my health reflects that. And because I'm in tune spiritually, and therefore in tune mentally, and therefore in tune emotionally, and therefore in tune physically, and my auric field is radiant and pure, and my focus on that, on shining my light as brightly as the sun, which is what you are here to do or to be. You're here to be the light. So how well are you being the light? Very important question for all of us to answer ourselves. Where were you limiting that, holding that back, dimming that by giving some of your power through your focus to something you don't want? Where can you improve that focus? By getting back to your center, to your divine design, duty, destiny, dharma, and living that, and feeding yourself the right information, which is acknowledging that your power is beyond measure and there's nothing that you cannot achieve, and you are here to make as much of a difference as you can to as many people as you can, to shine your light as brightly as the sun, right? And that's the kind of information you're feeding yourself consciously, and not giving any of your power to the disempowering messaging of the, quote, legacy media like CNN. I mean, to me, all we need to do is, when we have this leftist propaganda arm of the Communist Party, well, is withdraw all of our attention from it, and it collapses on its own when we all recognize the negative impact of a news, quote-unquote, source like that, and we withdraw all of our attention from it, then it fails. That's what the capitalist system is about, where businesses must serve the needs of their clients, and if they're failing in that duty, then the market will eliminate them. So let's go back to the power of each of us in our power, and being that powerful creator we are, because you are God's instrument for miracles in the world. You are God's gift to the world, so be that gift. It is that simple. And then when you're doing such good work in the world, that's aligning your emotional body with your mental body, with your spiritual body. You feel great. You know how much you matter, because you are here to be of greater service to more people. And the more of an impact you're having, the more life supports you in having far greater impact on even more people, because that's your purpose, and that's why you're here. That is your work, to serve people. So the more you're contributing meaningfully to people, the better you feel about yourself, and that's aligning with your dharma, your purpose, how you are here to be in the world, and that filters down to you feeling great about yourself and about what you're doing, and that filters down to your physical health and well-being and vitality, right? And then spiritually, you're centered and you're congruent and you're connected with God, and you're open to the guidance that is there always around you, surrounding you, holding you, like the protection, it's more like you're communing with God, the infinite and unlimited, and you just know, hey, I need to go to operationgreatness.com/leader and lead my own Operation Greatness chapter among all of my online friends as well as in my community, because that's how I'm able to transform the lives of everyone connected with me, all my online friends, everyone on social media linked to me, as well as everyone in my local area. And that's how I can have by far the greatest impact, and that feels so good, making such a profound impact on so many people through operationgreatness.com/leader, or whatever that way you are here to contribute so much meaning and purpose and value and transformation to everyone you are blessed to be able to serve. Well, do that, because you're here to be that person. So the more you're doing that, the more aligned you are, the better you feel, and the better your health is, because that's all a reflection of every part of that. I'm inviting you to see that direct relationship yourself. So when I was thinking about this morning, I started to think, well, should I think about having a colonoscopy myself? And it's like, well, the answer was immediately no, because I know. Why would I subject my body to that treatment, those chemicals that would render me unconscious, and then have this invasive procedure done to me which is unpleasant, to put it mildly. I mean, the preparation for that. And then, why would I do that to my temple? Of course not. I cannot do that because I know that I'm great and my vitality and my health and wellness and well-being are better than ever. And that's where I'm giving my attention. That's what I am feeding my mind, that knowing. And then so that's what I'm empowering. And then, therefore, that feels right to me, that I know that is correct. And then the effect of that, the physical manifestation of that is where my health is. So all of that I invite you to contemplate, to see for yourself, and to ask yourself, like if you were like in the back seat as my dad was driving me back to the airport, and I said to him, you know that all of those 6 or 7 cancers, you had the power to stop, or they are a result of your thinking, your consciousness, and you created them. You can undo them just as simply. I mean, all of this is a little, let's say that's a little maybe too black and white, and let's look at the nuances of that. So like on one level, you could say the equivalent of the physical level would be like your environment, and maybe the next level, the equivalent of the emotional level. This is a metaphor, so maybe it's not a perfect correlation, and yet let's say like my dad would, I don't know, I think he would drink soda maybe every afternoon, and I think he mixed, like he would pour like a big cup, maybe, I don't know, 20 ounce cup or something, and he would but only fill it halfway with soda and then dilute it with water, but he would drink that every day, and he liked that. That was part of his routine, so he drank a lot of soda. And, if the sugar or what's that called? That toxic stuff that they put in soda, the partially hydrogenated corn syrup or whatever the name of that chemical is that they put in there, that the body doesn't even recognize or know what to do with it. So, I mean, they say that's like really bad for people. And, the food colorings are supposed to be, like they don't allow these things in, let's just call them more enlightened cultures, like Europe, for example. The toxic chemicals that they had put in the food in America is much different than the food in Europe, because the governmental, the regulations or the people don't stand for it. And how can these chemical companies posing as, I mean, they used to be like the tobacco, the cigarette manufacturers, but then when they started losing money putting that poison out there, then they switched to, okay, we're going to poison the food supply. And they, created, like, what is it? R Reynolds, I don't know, RJR Nabisco or whatever. And, they moved into, okay, we're going to process the foods and put the poison in there to destroy people. I mean, how we allowed this for so long is unfathomable. How they could consciously do as much damage to our health as possible, to me, is unconscionable. And how the agencies we empowered to make sure our food is safe, and how they completely have betrayed that because of, the head of the FDA or the head of the CDC or the head of the, whatever, then they become on the board of these poison companies. And, I mean, all of this is just total corruption. And yet that's how we had allowed ourselves to experience that reality because we were distracted, we were made weak. And now it's up to every one of us to be that inspired leader in our communities and to make our communities strong again, to make our neighborhoods strong again, to make our families strong again, first and foremost. And that requires us making ourselves strong again. And this is your primary duty. And that's related to using your power wisely and focusing your power on your divine design, duty, destiny, dharma, your purpose, why you are here, how you are here to be of greater service to more people, such as by leading your own Operation Greatness chapter in your community as well as among all your online friends. That's through operationgreatness.com/leader. So, going back to my thinking about reflecting on my friend having this procedure done to him and going through all of this, let's say, unpleasant preparation just to get a test done, an invasive test where he has to become unconscious for that to even happen. I was reflecting on how, okay, so me acknowledging that I alone determine my physical health and my vitality, my wellness, my peace. And then I related that to, wow, yes, that's absolutely true. And yet also extending that to, in other words, like I saw a visual of like what happens within my auric field, like the physical body, the energy body, like the lower astral as well as the higher astral, as well as the causal. It's actually the causal which creates the astral, which creates the physical. And there are 5 sheaths, they're called. The pain body is the physical body. That's the most dense form of the mind. And then it's called pranayama. Maya kosha is the name of the sheath for the emotional body versus the anamaya kosha is the pain body or the physical body, which is created by, and then there's the intellect, it's called the manomaya kosha. That's like your thinking and analytical mind. And these, then there's the Vijnanamaya kosha, and that's where it gets really exciting because that's like pure reason, discernment, discrimination, and intuition. It's called the buddhi. That's where you connect with your higher guidance. And those 3 are the astral. This one, the Vijnanamaya kosha, the pure reason, intellect, intelligence, intuition, that's the higher astral, and then the emotional body and the thinking and analytical is the lower astral. But all that is still the astral, and it's the causal which creates the astral, which creates the physical, and the highest body, the most subtle aspect of mind, is the bliss body. It's called the Anandamaya kosha, and that's when you're in the causal, and it's the causal that creates the astral, which creates the physical. This is a little beyond the spectrum of what I thought we were going to talk about today, and yet it's it's an invitation for you to give your attention to, let's go back to the spiritual versus the thinking versus the emotional versus the physical. When you stay in the spiritual, then you're using your power to create what you want, and this is your primary responsibility, your fundamental duty, honoring that, which is your reason for being. It's why you're here, which is to be of greater service to more people. So I was reflecting on how it is where I'm choosing to give my attention, which creates my physical world and my emotional well-being, and yet it's also what creates my reality, how much I am being of greater service to more people. So by me acknowledging my worth, my value, my power, my ability to transform the lives of everyone on the planet, including all of those not yet born, and this is your ability too, and I'm asking you to recognize that. I'm imploring you to create that by taking this to heart, by seeing that your power is beyond measure, as is all of us and our power. We are all powerful beyond measure, and we're here to make as much of a difference as we can to as many people as we can. That's our purpose. That's why we are here. So I saw that I was using my power to create great, vibrant health, well-being, longevity, vitality, and yet I had to ask myself, am I creating the impact that I want to have, that I have the ability to have? Am I serving people as much as I can? Or was I unknowingly, unconsciously limiting that? Because maybe I still had, and this is connecting another way too, which is pretty interesting as well, maybe I still was allowing this programming that I received from, if I'm being honest with myself and calling it what it is, from my mom, who had low self-esteem when she was early in my life, let's just put it that way, and she was not feeding her mind positive inspiration and truth about her power to do good in the world. And I mean, I acknowledge we all have done the best we can, and yet if you're not responsible for your power or what you are creating, if you're not using if you're not taking responsibility for it and using your power to do good in the world to varying degrees, okay, so for myself, I had this old program running which said that I was unlovable, I was unworthy, I was undeserving of love, happiness, wealth, prosperity, fun. I mean, I have a lot of fun, and I do have an impact, and I'm doing my best. Well, is that true? Okay, I see. Notice how the ego wants to defend against something that would cause me to look within myself, and yet the context here that I didn't recognize consciously until I started connecting the dots right here with you was that last night I had a beautiful conversation with a woman I'm interested in getting to know and seeing where that might go or how that might grow. And she was saying how she used to attract men who didn't love themselves. And I shared with her that I had this, I looked at this as my life lesson to love myself. And as I'm saying that, I mean, as I was telling her that last night, I was asking myself, is that still alive in me somewhere? Not consciously for sure. Because I have a lot of confidence in my ability to transform like every one of my online friends and everyone in my community. And I'm doing that, especially through OperationGreatness.com/leader, where you would be leading your own Operation Greatness chapter, and I would be walking you through transforming the lives of every one of your online friends and everyone in your community, if you are so inspired to do that. And why wouldn't you be? Because you have that power to transform their lives, everyone in your local community and all of your online friends through OperationGreatness.com/leader. And yet, as I said that to her, that this was my life lesson, and I'm asking myself then, have I for sure overcome that? Or is there still a remnant of that within me? And then when she said that she tends to attract guys who don't love themselves, I had to pause and reflect on that. Do I still not love myself because of my Well, see, it's irrelevant. Why? Because do I still have that in me? It was never my issue. It was something that I learned from the outside. And yet, is that still alive in me in any way? I don't know that I've entirely cleared that. I feel like I've gone most of the way. I mean, this is just me answering that question now. Maybe is there still like 20% left of that for me to acknowledge and reintegrate that part of me, like that little 6-year-old Danny, the one who used to be among the last 3 people to be picked in physical education class to be on their softball team because I had asthma and I couldn't exert myself very well, or otherwise I would be like my chest would be hurting and I would be breathing heavily and I would just have to kind of sit back and not play anymore. And they didn't want me on their team, and I can understand that. But that taught me that I was unlovable. Nobody wanted me. That's how I interpreted that. So for me to go back and say to little Danny, and you can do this yourself with where that was for you, that caused you before now to not feel worthy or lovable or deserving of love or success. Please, let's do this together. Like, picture that little version of you that was scared and feeling like it was all alone and disconnected, and just tell that part of you, something, I see you, I recognize that you're scared and you're afraid of being abandoned, you're afraid that nobody wants you, and yet I'm here and loving you right now. I love you. And I'm inviting you to come back. Will you hold my hand, please? And then picture yourself reaching out, and then picture that young version of you. I'm getting chills here. Holding your hand and feeling connected again and lighting up again and feeling like, wow, I'm being acknowledged. My fears are being felt and I'm okay and I'm trusting you. And you're not going to let me go or leave me alone or abandon me again. No, because I love you and I'm inviting you to come back because there's nothing but love here. And you're okay. You're safe. I promise you. You're safe. It's okay. And I'm giving you a big hug now and I'm surrounding you with love and protection and security. And I'm going to hold you and I'm going to keep you here and I'm going to breathe you back into being a part of me because you're who I am. We're in this together and I'm loving you and I'm accepting you and I'm acknowledging you and I'm proud of you. I love the person you are, right? And that feels joyful and that's incredible. That's so moving and inspiring and that feels so great, right? Notice how you're bringing in all aspects, your spiritual side, because you are such a giving, generous person, and you're God's gift to the world. You have so much love within you, and you feel good about sharing that love because that is why you're here, and that's your source of happiness, joy, fulfillment, well-being, peace of mind, success, prosperity, meaning, impact, contribution. And that feels so right because you have so much love. You're here to share that love, and that requires you to shine your light as brightly as the sun, to be the inspired visionary leader of everyone you are blessed to serve. And they need you so much, and that just feels good. You're carrying yourself differently. You're believing in yourself completely. You're standing tall. You know that you matter because you're here as God's instrument for miracles in the world. And that just feels right because you have that inner knowing. That's why you're here. You have that intuitive connection like, wow, I do matter. I'm here to make a big difference. I've always felt or known there was so much more for me, and now I'm living that. Now I'm seeing that. Now I'm acknowledging that. Now I've reintegrated that part of me that felt isolated and alone and scared and unprotected and unsafe. And now you've brought that back into your heart. And that feels so right and so glorious and so moving and so beautiful, because you're sending that love and you're caring for that and you're feeling that and you're acknowledging that. Breathe in that, hold that, see that, feel that. Feel that part of you now bursting with joy and exuberance and passion and love and purpose and meaning and fulfillment. Because that's you, that's your heart. And that connection is gone now because that's been healed. You've felt it and you've acknowledged it and you've loved it and you've brought it back home. Home, 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 sweet home in your heart. And you're just so filled with love now. And now it's time to share that love, to be that inspired visionary leader. I mean, you can share this podcast and invite every one of your online friends. You can lead every one of your online friends through doing this themselves, to bringing that part of them back into wholeness, back into love, back into the part no longer disconnected from the whole, and they're living vibrantly and wholly as well themselves. Would that be joyful and feel great to lead everyone connected with you through doing this? And you can write back and forth and share what this meant for you. Or you can do this through leading your own Operation Greatness chapter in your community as well as among all your online friends through operationgreatness.com/leader. And then you can use your partner link and you can get all of your friends joining. You can lead and inspire all of your friends to join your Operation Greatness chapter, and then for them to lead their own, where this is by far the most meaningful thing that they have ever done, the greatest contribution they have ever made to everyone they are blessed to serve, to lead, inspire, transform, and liberate, LITL, doing a little more today and being of greater service to more people, which is why every one of us is here. And you can be the one to give them that blessing, which is financial freedom money for every one of them, doing that through your OG chapter link through operationgreatness.com/leader. How meaningful and inspiring is that for you personally right here? How good does that feel? And is that in alignment with your goals? Because you are here to be of great service to everyone you can bless, to serve, to transform, to lead, inspire, liberate. And do you have that inner knowing, that sense, wow, this is the higher purpose of my life? This is the higher purpose of social media, because he's right. I have the power to transform everyone who's connected with me online. And this can be the greatest contribution anyone has ever made in their lives. And I just know that because he's right also. My power is beyond measure, and I was limiting it so much by giving my attention to what I was afraid might happen. And that was what I was focusing on. That's where I was giving my power, and that's what I was then experiencing. And yet I have so much good that I'm here to contribute meaningfully. I'm here to make a profound impact, and I can do that on every one of my online friends and everyone in my local area. How much more meaning is there than that? How much more meaningful can my life be than that? That's by far the best thing that I've ever done, was leading and empowering and inspiring everyone I can to transform their lives and be that inspired leader among everyone they know. I mean, like, just for instance, by you leading, inspiring, transforming, and liberating your online friends into this podcast and using your profit partner link and getting 1,200 of your online friends to lead their own chapters through your chapter, through operationgreatness.com/leader, your 1,200 friends are then getting their 1,200 friends, and really see this because you have the power to create this. Remember, where you're giving your attention, you are giving your power. That's how you are creating your life and how we are creating our world. So your 1,200 people are leading their 1,200 people. And my friend, you have now transformed the lives of 1,440,000 people. Breathe in that. And then those 1,440,000 people getting their 1,200 friends. And now you have transformed, just think about this as what you are giving your attention and creating, because that's where you're giving your power. 1.72 billion people whose lives have become transformed, where they recognize their power beyond measure by you leading through your power beyond measure and transforming everyone you are blessed to have connected with you and for you to be able to serve, leading everyone they are blessed to be able to serve, leading everyone they are blessed to serve as well. And you have transformed 1.72 billion people. That is the measure of the power that you have to create our world as peaceful, loving, beautiful, grand, inspired as you envision it right now, right here. So pause and reflect and see the world being so much more loving, coming from abundance, being generous, neighbors helping each other out, kids laughing and playing in the parks again, in the street again, in the dirt or mud, in the trees again. All of us are connected again from our hearts with each other to our purpose, to God. Our families are strong again, and love is overflowing again. And this is the world every one of us is here now and creating. Starting with you right here through your Operation Greatness chapter through operationgreatness.com/leader. Is there any question about any of this? This is your higher purpose. It's the higher purpose of social media. It's why we are all here now and working together, coming from love, being very generous in what we are sharing, in the gifts that we are giving far and wide, with your power beyond measure to lead, inspire, transform, and yes, liberate, just doing a little more today and being of greater service to more people. How great does that feel? How much more are you believing in yourself now because you know you matter? You know your power is beyond measure, and you're applying your power to being of greater service, to making as much of a difference as you can to as many people as you can. This is how much you matter. How much more inspired are you now? How great do you feel about yourself and the person you here are now? What I would love for you to do now is to go back to the beginning of this Operation Greatness podcast and take each point and consider it, go deep within it, relate it to what's happening in your life, your own experiences now as well as in the past, and post about all of this as you are actively leading every one of your online friends through this transformation themselves. And it's best if you do this through your Operation Greatness Profit Partner link through operationgreatness.com/leader, through you leading your own Operation Greatness chapter, and you're inviting every one of your online friends to join your chapter as well as to lead their chapter and to be that inspired person transforming the lives of all of their friends through their Operation Greatness chapter link. This is how we're all having the greatest impact any of us has ever conceived, believed, achieved, and received, right? This is all through operationgreatness.com/leader. I believe this is your higher purpose. I believe this is why you are here, because you are here to be that inspired visionary leader of everyone you are blessed to have connected with you, all of whom now you are transforming and liberating. And that just feels so right to me. Does that feel great to you as well? And you have that inner knowing, like, wow, I have to do this. He's right. This is my greatest contribution in the lives of every one of my online friends as well as everyone in my community. And this is, in fact, the greatest contribution any of them has ever received from anyone. And it's from me, and that's meaningful to me. That feels so good. That just feels right. I just know in my heart this is important and I have to do this, and I'm going to do this as well as I can, because he's right. Where I give my attention is where I'm creating my life, giving my power, and that's how I'm creating everything that I want. And I've always known there's so much more for me, and I just know this is that so much more. This is that one thing that I was neglecting. And he's right too, where I am responsible for how I'm creating my life, and I was limiting that so much by buying into scarcity, fear, lack consciousness, which is really the disease that was infecting humanity, collective consciousness. And this is like the antivirus program, because now I see that I have the power to transform the whole world and to liberate 1.72 billion people just by getting 1,200 of my online friends as part of my Operation Greatness chapter through operationgreatness.com/leader. Nothing matters more than this. This is my greatest way of being of service to everyone connected with me, and I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to transform their lives. I'm going to work with Dan as much as I can. I'm going to work with everyone in the Private Wealth Alliance for Operation Greatness chapter leaders through operationgreatness.com/leader. And I'm going to contribute as meaningfully as I can to all of our chapter leaders, because we're all in this serving and supporting each other. We're working together to be of greater service to all chapter leaders, just as we are to everyone in our communities and all our online friends. And this is the most important work humanity has ever done. And it's happening by you doing this yourself, doing this with and for everyone connected with you. And this just feels so right. You have the inner knowing, wow, I have to do this. This is how I'm shining my light as brightly as the sun. This is my greatest gift to the world. This is my legacy gift to my children. The world is such a far better place, more loving, more peaceful, more united, more liberated, more free, more empowered and inspired because of me. Doing this myself as the greatest thing I have done for myself, and doing this as my greatest contribution to my family, to my friends, to everyone online, and to everyone in my local area. Their lives are so much better because of me doing this for myself and for my children, and doing this as my greatest contribution to the world. And that just feels so good to me. And I'm so grateful that I went to operationgreatness.com/leader and did this. How does that feel? How confident are you now that this is it, the higher purpose of me being here? And I'm so grateful that all the dots connected. And I'm so grateful that your friend was doing the colonoscopy and you looked at that and thought, wow, I have the power to heal every aspect of my consciousness, and that includes creating my greatest reality, and I'm going to do that myself and make sure that I'm not limiting myself or creating scarcity or lack or limitation or limiting the value of the gift I am. Because you're right, Dan, I am God's gift to the world, and just by being that gift, all these people's lives are transformed because they are blessed to be connected with me, and I'm blessed to be able to serve them. And that just feels so great, because I know that I'm here to be of greater service to everyone I can. And I cannot conceive of any greater way of doing that than through leading my own Operation Greatness chapter. So I'm so grateful that I went to operationgreatness.com/leader and led my chapter, because that was by far the best thing that I've ever done. And I'm so grateful that I saw this podcast today and that I led every one of my online friends through doing this themselves and joining my Operation Greatness chapter and leading their own, all through operationgreatness.com/leader. So go through from the beginning and share each of your insights as separate posts using your profit partner link that you got when you led your own chapter through operationgreatness.com/leader, and then take all of the 100 or so posts, like 110 minutes. You can get 110 posts, I'm sure, from this podcast. Take them all and put them into like a Word document or Google document and make a PDF out of them, and then share that PDF with us in our Private Wealth Alliance. And also take all of these posts that you're making, all of which you are sharing with your profit partner link, and leading, inspiring, transforming, and liberating every one of your online friends. Take all these posts and put them into the essay that you are sending me to dan@danclatt.com, because I care about how much the work that God is doing through the instrument I am. I love to see the impact that this work is having on you and everyone I am blessed to have some hand in serving. So send that to me personally at dan@danclatt.com, and you are leading your chapter through operationgreatness.com/leader. I'm so inspired by how you are hearing this message and how you are opening so much more fully to being the light you are and being of such greater service to everyone you are blessed to lead, inspire, transform, and yes, liberate, doing just a little more today and being of greater service to more people. So I'm so moved and inspired and excited by how much good you are doing as a result of hearing this and taking it to heart. I love you. I believe in you. I know how much you are here to make a difference in the world, and I'm celebrating you living that and being that inspired leader you are destined to be. So be it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.